Each year I get up here and tell you about the data that supports how necessary and relevant an all-girls education is. That year after year, various universities study the impact an all-girls education can have on the lives of young women, and the data always confirms the advantage that I know in my heart I received as a Mercy student. That nearly 87% of girls' school students feel their opinions are respected at their school compared to only 58% of girls at co-educational schools. That 93% of girls' school grads say they were offered greater leadership opportunities than peers at co-ed schools, and 80% have held leadership positions since graduating from high school. That a majority of girls' school grads report higher self-confidence over their co-ed peers. That girls will ignore gender stereotypes and develop their competitive side more fully at single-sex academic settings. That young women who attend all-girls schools, when compared to co-ed schools, are 6 times more likely to explore a STEM career and 3 times more likely to major in engineering. 3 and 6 times more. Let that data soak in for a second. We aren't saying 3% or 6%, we are saying 300%. And 600%. That a young girl who attends an all-girls school is 600% more likely to explore a STEM career. That's fascinating. Could you imagine if such an institution existed where the likes of Steph Curry or Caitlin Clark could go to be 600% better at their shooting averages? There would be lines out the door and wait lists for decades. Yet this isn't the reality for all-girls institutions. In fact, it's the opposite. They close the doors to these magical institutions, making it so that less than 1% of American women have access and attend an all-girls education. Did you know in the 1950s, San Francisco had 14 all-girls schools? Yet today, only 2 remain open. And they are 2 who serve very different populations, which means Mercy High School in Burlingame is the closest traditional all-girls school for any young woman north of us to attend. Based on the data I shared, my brain can't understand how our society has allowed this to happen. How have we allowed the Bay Area's educational landscape to change so drastically for young women? How have we created barriers for them to access an advantage? When I try to wrap my brain around it, the only answer I can come up with to explain such a tragedy is money, and the reality that all-girls institutions are significantly underfunded. As a result, too many all-girls institutions have faced unique financial obstacles that have ultimately left them with only one option in their most difficult years: closure. This is unacceptable to me, and I refuse to allow it to be Mercy's future. Unfortunately, philanthropic trends show a few pieces of information that I believe we should care about as an all-girls institution. Women and men both give generously, but the way we each give limits the fundraising goals of all-girls institutions. Women are a force to be reckoned with when it comes to giving their time and talents. They are critical community members that are the first to volunteer for causes and give in-kind donations. When it comes to donating money, women want to stretch their giving between multiple causes, therefore reducing the specific amount they give to each, while men want to give larger amounts to fewer organizations. Regardless of gender, data shows that we give more to what we relate to. I believe this data comes to life when you look at the stark difference between what an all-boys school raises in one evening like tonight versus what an all-girls school makes. On nights like tonight, all-boys schools can bring in hundreds of thousands of dollars in 10 minutes, while all-girls schools bring in tens of thousands. Well, of course, we celebrate the success of these institutions with young men. I can't help but look at the difference and wonder, do people not value the education of a girl the way they do that of a boy? So our challenge is unique. How do we maximize the giving of our alums and female supporters while showing men the impact of an education they will never receive and get them to value an education they can never understand? Respectfully. The best answer I can give you is to try to get you to see the value of a Mercy all-girls education. So I'm going to ask that all of you close your eyes and don't open them until I tell you to. I'm serious, please close your eyes. And I'm going to take you down the worst case scenarios for a high school experience. I want everyone to think of a woman in their life who they love more than anything. Maybe it's your mom, your sister, your grandma. Maybe it's a wife, daughter, niece, or granddaughter. Whoever that person is, I want you to envision the toddler version of herself. Can you see her wild energy and the confidence that comes with the passion of the age? Can you see her hair flying all around her sweet little face with the fire within her ready to take on the world? Now imagine that preteen version of herself in a world that is starting to tell her who she should be, what she should wear, even how she should wear her hair. Imagine her beginning to be treated one way simply because of the size of her body and how she looks. Imagine her sitting in her 8th grade classroom, raising her hand and following directions, only to have the boy next to her yell out the answer, never giving her voice a chance to be heard. Now imagine that this individual continues into a co-educational high school environment that in a best case scenario, which we know rarely happens, allocates half their budget into their women's programming. Imagine her sitting in a classroom, overthinking if she should raise her hand and holding herself back in her studies because she is afraid of being judged by a boy for asking a stupid question. Can you see the lost teacher relationship? Can you see the potential for a B, C, or D instead of an A, B, or C? Depending on the type of school that she attends, she either has no access to retreats and faith-based education, or she is in a co-educational environment on a retreat and less willing to open up about her feelings and her beliefs simply because a boy is in the room. Imagine her holding herself back and sharing her deepest thoughts, or not even having the opportunity to explore her spiritual side. Imagine her trying out for a sport and being cut and never playing a sport again for the rest of her life. Imagine her running for student council and losing to a boy and not seeing her female voice valued. Do you see the life experiences that she is taking with her into her early adulthood and college years? Do you see how she is entering her young adulthood into a world where she has, without realization, accepted that her voice wouldn't always be heard? A world where she saw men holding more leadership roles. Do you see how she has accepted a world that doesn't allocate the same resources to female programming as it does men's? Can you imagine the impact that would have on a woman's life in relationships, marriages, friendships, and the workplace? Can you see her? What does that person you love look like? What have her experiences been? Now let's rewind her life back to 8th grade, right before she goes to high school. Imagine, instead of going into the co-educational option, that by the grace of God and the generosity of strangers, she was given the gift of attending Mercy and receiving an all-girls Catholic education. Can you see her walking into the Cole mansion in her plaid skirt, surrounded only by other young women? Can you see her walking into her first high school classroom and recognizing that every voice was a woman's voice and that her raised hand would be valued? Her voice, her thoughts, and her opinions would be given weight? Can you see her having an academic question and not thinking twice about raising her hand or walking up to her teacher to get support? Can you see the confidence that comes from the teacher relationship and belief in herself and the subsequent honors and AP courses she chooses to challenge herself with as a result of further knowing her abilities? Imagine if she has regular access to meaningful retreat programs developed particularly to meet the specific developmental and social-emotional needs of adolescent young girls. Imagine that she has the freedom and safety to express her opinions, explore her faith, and have a relationship with God. Can you see her getting to know herself better? Do you see her having the space given to her to define her values and reflect on who she is? Imagine her trying out for a sport she loves and being cut, yet being told she can still participate in a non-cut competitive sport or play on a developmental team. Can you see her playing multiple sports each year for 4 years as a result of the opportunity that exists after being cut? Imagine she runs for student council and loses, yet still sees herself represented in every leadership role on campus. Imagine a school whose budget is 100% committed to women's programming. Can you see her? Do you see who she's entering her young adult life as? Do you see that she has become, without realization, a young woman with a level of confidence usually reserved for women a decade or two older than her? Do you see her belief in her abilities and voice? Do you see how she values herself and values having a relationship with God? Can you imagine the impact that would have on a woman's life in relationships, marriages, friendships, and the workplace? Can you see her? Now open your eyes. Regardless where a young woman goes to school, she will be fine. But our young women deserve better than fine. They deserve an advantage that will serve them throughout their lives. They deserve mercy. Like our alum in our video said earlier, the greatest kind of giving is the one that requires sacrifice, the one that brings discomfort to our lives and postpones our wants. We all have different giving levels, but to sacrifice, to give even more to another so that she can receive, that's true giving, and it's one that feeds the soul. I know it takes something truly meaningful to want to sacrifice for. I don't know a greater sacrifice than one that transforms the life of a young woman. At last week's senior retreat, one alum shared with our students the impact Mercy had on her life. And she said, you can't put a price tag on your Mercy education. And I think all of us that received one can agree with this. We know an all-girls advantage exists for those who receive an all-girls education. The data doesn't lie, an advantage exists. Can you put a price tag on that? What about the benefits that come as a result of the increased confidence that comes with an all-girls education? I can't put a price tag on what that did for my own life. After leaving Mercy, I knew about a sports medicine internship my college offered that didn't open up for undergrads until sophomore year. This restriction didn't faze me, and I wrote an email requesting a meeting to state my case to be accepted as a freshman. When they said the program was already underway and there would be practicals I'd be responsible to complete in a shorter amount of time, I didn't hesitate in telling them I could do it. They accepted me. You can't put a price tag on that 3-year experience. When I was in college and found myself in uncomfortable situations, I had the confidence to remove myself from them and to use my voice to say no. What if I stayed? You can't put a price tag on my safety. When I accepted jobs, I knew to research what men were making, and I had the confidence to negotiate my salary because I knew my worth. If I had accepted the initial offers, my life earnings would be drastically different. You can't put a price tag on the life impact that has had. When I found myself in the midst of my life's hardest moments, I had a network of Mercy sisters from all different generations to fall and lean back and to lean on. You can't put a price tag on that support system. I, like many Mercy alums, can name hundreds of examples of how our Mercy experience and the confidence that came as a result impacted our lives. You cannot put a price tag on that. The only price tag I can confidently give you today is the price of the barrier to accessing this advantage, the barrier to receiving an all-girls Mercy education, and that price tag is $28,340, the cost of tuition. There are so many young women that need our support to accessing an advantage in life, to accessing a Mercy education, and I sincerely hope that you are here because you want to be part of the solution, that you want to help fund a young woman's future and provide her with years of a faith-based education rooted in the Mercy charism that provides safety and a lifetime of advantages. Despite us giving out over $2.5 million in financial assistance each year, our annual fundraising goal for financial assistance is $500,000, and we have actively been raising this throughout the year. Tonight's goal is $80,000. If everyone in this room gave a minimum of $290, we would meet our goal. I hope that you feel moved to give at a level that requires sacrifice. I know the young women behind me are grateful for both the opportunities they have as a result of your kindness and the classmates they might not know if it weren't for your kindness. Whatever you give tonight, I want to thank you. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for supporting Mercy, our mission, and our young women. To many of them, your faces are the angels that will forever change their lives. Thank you for being the difference in their lives and for making a difference tonight. Truly, from the bottom of my mercy-filled heart, thank you.